This year, in honor of National Recovery Month, we will be sharing videos of other people's experiences and perspectives in an effort to reduce stigma and enhance awareness on the topic of addiction. We are calling it the H.O.P.E Project, Hearing Other People's Experiences. Join us as our special guests share their experiences and how addiction has touched their lives. Please share, like, and subscribe. This is our H.O.P.E Project, Hearing Other People's Experiences. We are going to be talking to a bunch of different people to get their perspectives on the drug crisis that is currently going on. So I want to formally introduce and thank both of you for being here. This is Frank McCartney and Andrew Eiseman from the DEA. Thank you both for being here. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having us. We're very happy to have the opportunity to speak with you and your audience.
Awesome. So as you guys know, our role in the community focuses primarily on removing obstacles for those that are coming out of addiction inpatient treatment. Prevention is such an important part of, the addiction conversation, and that's what you guys specialize in. So I want to thank you both for being here. I want to start off with you guys explaining the DEA's role as well as your specific responsibilities as your roles in the DEA.
Okay, wonderful. Andy and I work with community outreach, namely drug prevention education. We talk to a variety of audiences. Our prime audience, however, is probably the student, elementary, middle, and high school students, and also college students. And our role is to obviously support the mission of the DEA, which is a law enforcement entity whose primary mission is to stop the trafficking of drugs by cartels. What Andy and I try to do to complement that mission is to reduce the demand, and reducing the demand through education. And with our community outreach team, we've been able to partner with a lot of people throughout the community, including your organization. And we enjoy partnering with people that approach the problem in a different lane, whether that be treatment or recovery, because again, that betters our mission in prevention. The more we understand, the better we are at communicating a message on prevention and staying away from drugs. Andy?
I would definitely agree with that. And it's our role with the DEA is to educate and inform and give people the information that they need to make those right decisions. And as Frank said, we talk to a lot of kids, a lot of college kids, a lot of elementary school kids, and our goal is to just give them the information they need not to make the wrong decisions, not to make the mistakes. Because when they get to a certain age, sometimes those mistakes are a little bit more difficult to come back from. And sometimes you can't come back from them. And if we can just reach those kids at that age and maybe help the parents understand what is going on out there, then that's what we're here to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I really appreciate how you guys extend, the opportunity for young kids, especially to learn about this. That's such an important part of the prevention aspect. So I'm glad that you guys are, reaching that type of audience. As you guys know, we continue to lose so many to the overdose crisis, honestly, in this country. Can you guys share with us some of the updated statistics on overdoses in the United States?
Yes, we can. And unfortunately, the numbers are not going in the right direction. They're going up. Last year, we lost 106,000 lives in the United States to substance use disorder and overdose. That's 260 people a day.
Wow.
And I always talk to our audiences and ask them to pause and stop and think about these numbers, that these numbers represent actual people.
Mm-hmm.
And these people are members of families, whether that's a daughter or a son or a father or a mother. They have friends. They were souls that walked the earth and were just like you and I. So that's a really important thing to consider. That number boils down to 290 people a day. That's like an airplane crashing every day. Every day you wake up, turn on the news, and hear that an airplane crashed and 290 lives were lost. So that's really a big number, and that's really devastating for all of us in the community. In Philadelphia alone, we lost 1,274. That's 3 fellow citizens a day. So it is rampant and it's throughout the country. And it has been driven primarily by the change in landscape as far as illicit drugs are concerned. With the onset of fentanyl being present in most drugs, it's becoming deadlier as we go.
Mm.
And just so everyone is aware, which is another tragic statistic, is fentanyl now is the number one death of young people between the ages of 18 and 45, to give that some perspective.
Yeah, it seems like it's in everything nowadays. And, for kids who, may be trying things, you just never know. So it's just completely changed the landscape, like you said, Frank. Right now, what is the DEA seeing is the most endangering our communities? Maybe it is the fentanyl crisis. Would you guys agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. And what DEA started an initiative to communicate the threat of counterfeit or fake pills. The One Pill Can Kill campaign was started in last December. The leadership of DEA is very committed to getting this information out to the public to raise awareness because, like you said, many times a young person may just experiment with something. Unfortunately, the risk in casual experimentation resulting in death has risen substantially as a result of the fentanyl. And like Andy said, the fact that it's the number one killer for young people is very, very threatening. And it really is important to get this information across, not only to parents and community groups, but especially those in middle school and high school that may be very much unaware of the threat.
What would be one piece of advice you would give to parents in regards to, fake pills and kids getting, access to them more through things like social media? What would be one piece of advice that you would give to parents who may suspect that their kids may be doing this type of thing, like ordering pills online?
Yeah, I would advise, being a parent myself, I think the best approach is to have frank and honest conversations with kids. Um, even a kid that's in first or second grade can have a conversation with a parent that discusses the importance of medicine cabinet safety
Mm.
or good medicine versus bad medicine, things of that nature. To start the conversation when they're young, and as they grow older, to really be frank and honest and encouraging an open dialogue. The fact that social media has become very relevant in drug trafficking is something that scares me as a parent and grandparent because that's a hard thing for a parent to monitor. But again, I think the communication on the family level is really, really important, backed up by communication in schools and prevention programs.
Mm.
And it's also real important to break the perception fallacy, where a lot of kids think that because prescription medication, because they took it when they were younger, maybe they were on Ritalin or Adderall or whatever the case may be, that's okay. It's okay to take it. And that's what the traffickers are seeing. It's that perception. There's a statistic that came out that I believe it was maybe 72% of kids report that their parents talk to them about the dangers of illicit drugs, yet only 22 or 25% of those parents talk to the kids about the dangers or misuse of prescription medication.
Wow.
So that's something that from a very, very young age, we have to ensure that unless this medication is prescribed to them by a doctor or getting it at a pharmacy or wherever it may be, that they can't think that that pill that they're going to get from Snapchat or Instagram is going to be safe. In fact, 4 out of 10 pills, almost 5 out of 10 pills that the DEA is seizing are laced with enough fentanyl to kill that individual. So you're playing with literally a loaded gun. And the parents need to ensure that their kids have that. We go back to it all the time, that information, that it's not okay. They have to make sure that what they're getting is the real thing. And there's only one way to do that, and that's from a trusted source.
Definitely. Yeah, I think communication and conversation is the most important aspect of all of this stuff. again, not to use fear tactics, but to just be real with kids and your loved ones about, things are a lot different now, and it's life or death out there. So I think opening up that dialogue and having, stern conversations about the reality of the drug epidemic is super important. Are there other new emerging drug trends that the DEA is seeing that could be on the horizon of endangering our communities?
Well, the fake pills are number one. The other thing that alarms Andy and I on a local level is the perceived risk from young people regarding marijuana use.
Mm.
Because of the push to legalize marijuana, in many cases, it's been very much normalized. And as with any substance, whether it's marijuana, tobacco, alcohol, there are definitely bad side effects for a kid, especially a kid with a developing brain, that has a negative impact on their brain development and their physical health as well. So a lot of times we are finding that we need to talk to kids a little bit more about marijuana, that it has dangers, that you can overconsume and end up sick as a result. And you can have long-term issues such as psychosis or anxiety, depression. And of course, anything you smoke has a negative impact on your body. So that's one of the things that Andy and I try to address when we're speaking to a younger audience as well.
Yeah. There was a recent study that came out literally a couple of days ago from the NIH that marijuana use among young people is at its highest level since 1988.
Wow.
And marijuana these days is nothing like the time where Frank and I were growing up. The average THC, that's the active chemical in marijuana that gives you that high feeling, was between 4 and 7%. Some of this cannabis oil that is being sold now is 95%.
Wow.
So we are talking a totally different type of marijuana, and the delivery systems like vaping and that sort of thing is getting it into the system. And that's why you're going to see more and more headlines, we believe, about kids that are having adverse effects to this.
Mhm. Thank you for touching on that. I think things like marijuana, alcohol, and tobacco that are more socially acceptable, I'll say, are kind of neglected on the topic of addiction. So thank you for touching on that.
Well,
Um,
thank you. We recognize the work that you do. When we met and I first heard about your organization, it's very uplifting because it provides hope. And that's a really important key piece to this whole dynamic, is that those that are struggling need to understand that there's treatment and recovery and that there is hope. So your focus on that is something that we admire and appreciate as well.
Yeah, Frank and I, like we said, we're just two guys. We cover as much space as we possibly can, and we do our best. And we need force multipliers. An organization like you is what we need to get the word out, to help to spread information and get people involved, because it is a problem that we need a literal army to help solve. And we appreciate you guys and what you do.
Oh, thank you guys so much. It was a pleasure when we first met, and I really appreciate you guys, collaborating with me further to get this information out to our community. And I always say with anyone that works in this field, it's like this big complex puzzle of a million pieces, and we're all just one little puzzle piece that's a part of the greater picture. So you guys obviously play such an important role, the DEA at whole, but also the community outreach is such an important part. So thank you again for the work that you do. If people would like to reach you, where can they reach you?
You can reach me at andrew.j.eisman@dea.gov.
And my email address is frank.j.mccartney, McCartney, @dea.gov.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for meeting with me today and sharing some of the super important information. I'm so grateful for the work that you both do and for all of the work that the DEA does. And it was a pleasure speaking with you both today.
Well, thank you,
For
Beth.
us too. Thank you.
Take care.